Will AI take my job? Is my job going to change? What can I do to keep my job? It is no surprise that these are the top questions that I get asked at the start of every workshop, and questions that are just on everyone's mind. Because with so many headlines like these ones in the news, especially this one where a survey of 2,000 executives shared that 41% of them expect to employ fewer people because of AI technology, it's no surprise these are the kinds of fears people have. Pair that with the uncertainty of the economy, inflation, the rising cost of living, and it is so normal to feel overwhelmed and have anxiety about the future while also being curious and excited. So today, I want to share how we can begin answering these questions and what it is you can do today, right now, to prepare and be ready for what is going to come next, even if we don't quite know exactly what that is. Now, one of the reasons I was inspired to make this video was because when I hear people ask this question, there are two answers that people will often give that I just think are very misleading. And with Microsoft's latest report, we now actually have the data to show why, which is why I can now make this video. So before I tell you what we should be doing to get ready, I want to tell you what you can avoid and why being aware of these kinds of misleading statements can help you be better informed, and how you can learn from research reports like the 2024 Microsoft Work Trend Index to not only keep your job, but also to identify other opportunities that are out there for you in the next 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years. Hi everyone, my name is Saba and I'm the CEO of Designing Schools, and I'm a former educator and executive at Apple. On this channel, I help you learn the methods and mindsets that are going to give you a human advantage in an AI world. So hit subscribe for insights and strategies on how to be irreplaceable in a world with AI. So this first misleading statement bothers me a lot because I hear it a lot in education. And instead of me telling you why it bothers me, listen to what Sam Altman has to say, because he's the one who created this technology and knows where it's going next.
One of the things that annoys me most about people who work on AI is when they stand up and with a straight face say, oh, this will never cause any job elimination.
Yeah.
You know, this is just an additive thing. Yeah. It's all gonna be great. Like, this is gonna eliminate a lot of current jobs. And this is going to change the way that a lot of current jobs function. And this is gonna create entirely new jobs.
So this is a question that I think is really important too. Like, even if your job is safe for the next 1 year or 2 years, what about 5 or 10 years from now? What about our students who are in schools and we have no idea what the world is gonna look like and what their jobs are gonna be? And so it's really important to balance the answers to these kinds of questions by thinking about the difference between what's gonna happen in the near future and what might happen in the distant future. And I always tell people, even if you operate with a worst case scenario of AI, is it gonna take my job, and you think doom and gloom, the only thing it really does is motivate you to be more prepared, to be more aware and more informed. And this knowledge is really where your insights will come around what opportunities are available, what's possible for you, how do you take advantage of the new jobs that are coming, but also be less stressed and anxious about the future. You know, people will always ask me, how did you go from teaching high school history to working at Apple to now running your own business? And the answer is really simple. I learned the importance of paying attention to what is happening in the world around us, what are existing and emerging technologies and trends, and also what are the methods and mindsets we need to take advantage of this kind of change. Because in 2007, when I graduated with a bachelor's and a master's, I was not prepared at all. And so when the recession came just a few months later, with my first job came my first layoff notice. But 2007, if you remember, was the year Steve Jobs launched the iPhone. The app economy was booming. So clearly some people knew what was coming and what was going on. I just wasn't one of them, and I never wanted to be in that situation again. And so this now brings me to number 2, because I always wonder, how did my teachers not think to tell me about all the stuff that was going to come my way? And the second big misleading statement that I hear is that there are no generative AI experts and no one knows what's going to happen next. And many people express this type of concern with every emerging technology, not just AI, often because they think they're scared of being wrong if they make a prediction. And when you are in a leadership position, or you are trying to think about the future, whether you are thinking about the future of students and school, or whether you're thinking about the future of your organization, one of the things that's really important to have is courage in your ideas and your beliefs that is backed not just by your opinion, but by research, evidence, and data. And if you're wondering, well, how do you even do that? Or how do you put that together at a time when, yes, it is hard for us to know exactly what's going to come tomorrow? I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do that in today's video. And this is a method that is taught in one of my favorite books by Jane McGonigal called Imaginable. And this book came out before ChatGPT. These methods have existed before ChatGPT, but she introduces this method called Foresight that is not hers. It's, there's a lot of research around foresight and futures thinking, but the idea is that we are not just trying to predict the future, we are trying to prepare for it using current knowledge, using research to be able to anticipate different future scenarios. And I have really seen firsthand the divide in response to new technologies. Been doing this for 15 years. And there are two types of people that I notice. There are those people who are a little bit more narrow-minded and they're sort of waiting for research on the emerging technology. And while research is important, because I'm going to talk about so much research today, waiting for research to come for emerging technologies can oftentimes leave you and your organization behind, especially when technology is moving so quickly and research doesn't move as fast. But then you have a second group of people. And the second group of people are those who look to existing research and methods. They look to things like the learning sciences, futures thinking. They look to methods and mindsets that have consistently brought about success. How do we motivate people? How do people learn best? These are all things that we've known for decades. We just haven't always had the tools to allow us to implement those as much as we perhaps would like to. And so those are people who say, oh my God, this method is here. This technology now lets us do this. And so while we can't predict exactly what's going to happen tomorrow, we can absolutely equip ourselves with foresight skills. And these skills allow us to see beyond traditional uses. It allows us to turn our technology from being just another thing into really meaningful parts of our academic, personal, and professional experiences. Now, it's going to be so embarrassing to look back on and think this, but when AI first came out, cheating is really what dominated the conversation. And it wasn't until a year later that we actually got the research that said, hey, kids are not just using AI for cheating, they're actually using it for like social emotional support and all these other ways as well. And so sometimes not being able to predict what needs to come next can really, really, really put you at a huge disadvantage. Not to mention it's a little unethical, because if you think about it, 2024 is now the second year we have graduating high school seniors and college students who likely have little to no AI skills, or worse off, are walking into the workplaces thinking AI is cheating at a time when the Microsoft report is telling us employers don't think using AI is cheating. In fact, 61% of employers say, we don't even want to hire you if you don't know how to use AI. And they don't mean the technical stuff, the coding on all of that. They mean in your day-to-day examples like I'm going to show you today. And if we think about it, one of the reasons schools are even struggling is because we haven't really changed much in the last 100 years. Forget last 100 years, even the last 10 or 20 years, despite having so much emerging technology alongside us. And so if it wasn't really for ChatGPT, I think people would still be doing what they've always been doing. But being forced into change is very, very painful. And it doesn't have to be this way. And here's why I can tell you that with so much confidence. A decade ago, when I was at the University of Southern California, that time iPads were the new big technology. And a lot of people thought they would reduce the quality of learning because kids aren't going to use pen and paper anymore and they're not going to be writing anymore. But what we realized was the real issue was not the devices themselves or the technology itself. It was how it was being used as part of the teaching and learning process. But again, we went back to our data, and in 2001, Paul Atwell actually published a paper called The First and Second Digital Divide. And in this paper, basically what he said was, it's not enough to just give people technology. We have to also change what type of tasks people are doing once that technology is being brought into the picture. So it's not enough to just kind of give people the tool. It's really about thinking, okay, how are they going to use this tool to develop critical thinking skills, creativity, problem-solving skills, because this looks different when your tool is different. Whether you're using pen and paper, whether you're using a laptop, whether you're using an iPad, whether you're using AI, these things are all going to look different. And it's not about doing one or the other. It's, again, really thinking about your workflow and where the appropriate use of what tool is for the task you want to do. So in 2013, we conducted a survey with our graduate students at USC that revealed that most students had never been taught how to effectively take notes on their digital devices. And this was a really important insight because it wasn't just about the technology, whether it was a pen, a paper, or an iPad. Many students didn't understand how they learned best and how to take different strategies and apply them alongside different tools. So with this in mind, we actually created an orientation session for our students before school began that didn't just look at how to use an iPad, but it also focused on metacognitive strategies and digital literacy, which there is so much evidence for. One of my favorite organizations that talks about this is Harvard's Project Zero. They have an amazing collection of metacognitive strategies that basically make your thinking visible. And you can make your thinking visible on pen and paper, but when you have an iPad and technology, you can also use audio, video, drawing, and so many more other tools. So we integrated visible thinking routines to help students engage more deeply with their coursework now that they had all this access to this technology that allowed them to do so much more than what they had been able to do with just pen and paper. Before and after classes, this is just one example, we used to have our students use a visible thinking routine called 3-2-1 Bridge, where they would write down 3 thoughts, 2 questions, and 1 analogy before they came to class on their readings. And then when they came to class and after they had learned these new things, had discussions and processed, they would do it again. What are 3 new thoughts? What are 2 new ideas or questions you have? And what is 1 new analogy now that you know what you didn't know when you had first just started this topic? So the amazing part was they had so many options beyond pen and paper. They could draw. We saw our students creating songs, creating videos, doing things on whiteboards and recording themselves. But the best part was they were sharing all this with each other in our online community. So not only were they engaged in deeper learning, they were also learning how to use their technology to be more creative, more productive, and above all, how to connect more deeply with how they learn best, which we know is a very important lifelong skill. Here are some of my favorite things the students shared. One of them said, I used to think that trying to apply the same techniques as pen and paper would be difficult, but now I think that adapting new techniques when using different technologies actually enhances the learning experience and better organizes the information for future retrieval. This is a really important lesson she's going to take with her forward into the workplace when she sees things like today AI. Another student said, I used to think that with all the technology available on the market, that more people would be technologically literate in the classroom. But I was surprised to see that people were not familiar with how to incorporate technology in the classroom, even if they are fluent with it in other aspects of their lives. As we look forward to what's possible with AI, it's so important to remember this. The future isn't just something that happens to us. It's something that we can actively shape with the right skills, strategies, and insights. And just because a tool or a technology is new doesn't mean we don't have the strategies, methods, and mindsets from data, from evidence, from research to help us make those informed decisions about what we can do with the new technology that we have. All right, so now that we've talked about the misleading statements and you know what not to pay attention to, let's take a look at a really interesting statement that we hear so much. I am sure you have heard this quote before. It's one that I think was first said by Jensen Huang, who is the CEO of NVIDIA, where he says,
AI is not going to take your jobs. The person who uses AI is going to take your job.
AI won't replace you, but a person using AI will. That is so open-ended because I have wondered for so long, what does a person using AI look like? Look in all these different industries. I know what it looks like in my industry, but what about all the other industries? What is that person doing? What is the person who is using AI doing differently than the person who is not using AI, other than a few prompts here and there? And this is exactly why skills like foresight, empathy, and problem solving are so important. In a world when things move so quickly and people say everything is new and we have no answers, you have to be that individual who can read in between the lines and help people put those different pieces together. And so let's get into looking at how exactly it is you do this, because there is so much research out there that can help you. So today I'm going to share with you an example that I actually shared during my keynote at Canva Create, which by the way was such a career highlight. I could not believe that I was speaking alongside people like Guy Kawasaki, Adam Grant, and so many other amazing individuals, people who for so long just sit right here on my bookshelf. We're now speaking on the same stage. And so these strategies are really a testament through my own experiences for how learning these methods and mindsets will really put you at the forefront of what is coming next. And if you're somebody who loves Canva as much as I do, so many of these AI skills can be done inside of Canva. And so I'm going to show you exactly what a person who uses AI does that's going to replace the person who's not using AI. So step 1, this is somebody who is really paying attention to existing and emerging trends. And you do not need to be a full-time researcher to do this. Even if you just read Microsoft's Work Trend Index, you would honestly have more than enough to at least take some first steps. So every single year, Microsoft share a report called the Work Trend Index. And we're going to go all the way back, well, not that far back, but seems far back, to 2022, where in their report they shared people were really struggling with this transition to hybrid work, which I'm sure you remember because we were all a part of that transition. And a really big part of the problem was that managers could not see what people were doing because they weren't at their desks anymore in an office the way we all used to be. And so it really led to a lot of assumptions about what are people doing? Are they working? Are they not working? And a lot of people started to just think that people were not being productive. And let's all be really clear, seeing somebody sit at a desk by their computer does not in any way, shape, or form equal productivity or creativity. But because that's what we're so used to, it was a really hard mindset shift for many people, many organizations, many managers to make. And so what happened, Microsoft said, was productivity paranoia, where even though people were doing what they needed, people were performing, organizations were performing some even better than they were pre-pandemic, leaders just felt like because they couldn't see you, you must not be doing anything. Therefore, you weren't being as productive as you could be. So what did leaders do? They started asking everyone to come back to the office. And what did they do with people at the office? More meetings. I think this culture of more meetings really emerged during the pandemic. And so not only did we have to come back to work, we had to come back with all of these meetings that people had gotten so used to as well, as if we were still remote, even though we were back in person. So then fast forward to 2023, the Work Trend Index now shared this insight. Guess what? With all these extra meetings, people are overwhelmed with a concept they call digital debt. We have too many emails, too many notifications, too much happening in too many spaces. But worst of all, not only do we have too many meetings, those meetings are all super inefficient, which meant 68% of people then said, we have no uninterrupted focus time during our workday. And why? All we all have to do is open up our calendars and look at all the little tiny time blocks. So most places, from education all the way to enterprise, really did not take the time to pause. And granted, there was a lot going on, but even after, not everyone took the time to pause to think about how might we work in a hybrid environment? What is technology allowing us to do that we didn't really think was possible before, but now that we were all forced to do something, we've seen different ideas in different ways. We, instead of asking those really important questions, overwhelmed people with technology and old practices. So we bought the worst with us and then took all the new things, and we call this the substitution trap. We take all the old ways of working, but we force new technologies on top of those old ways, and guess what? That is the number one recipe for massive burnout, which is something that we're hearing across the board from so many different industries. We are more stressed today than we've ever been before. We are less productive, and which also means we're less creative, which guess what? Prevents us from moving our teams, our organizations forward with new ideas and new innovations, which guess what? Ultimately is what brings in more money. So now we reach 2024, and this year's Microsoft Work Trend Index that they partnered with LinkedIn to do is gold. And I'm going to share just a few highlights, but here's the big thing they shared. This time with AI, employees are not waiting for their leadership teams to be the ones to figure things out, to come up with solutions and think of new ways of working. Instead, people are just quietly working now behind the scenes, with 75% of people doing what they call BYOAI, bringing their own AI. Why? Because people are using this technology. They see the benefits. They've had a negative experience with many of their managers in the past not wanting to adopt new technologies and try new things. And 90% of people are saying, AI is helping me save time. 85% are saying, I'm being able to focus more on what's really important. 84% of people are saying it's enabling me to be more creative. 83% of people are saying that I'm enjoying my work more and I'm just happier. And this is where we finally get one answer to what it means when people say, AI won't replace you, but a person using AI will. The Microsoft report calls these kinds of individuals reporting these results power users. And here is one strategy they say they use. Before starting any task, they ask, can AI help me with this task? And now this brings me to step number 2 of the personality of this individual. In step 2, this person takes insights like that. They read, oh my God, a power user says, before I start any task, how can AI help me? That's brilliant. But then there's going to be two kinds of people. Because reading something is one thing, but the real skills and the real competitive advantage comes when you can take that insight and actually implement it through some type of strategy of your own. So you're going to get two kinds of people. The first type of person is going to read that kind of report, see that statistic, and be like, okay, that's great, but how am I supposed to know how AI can help me? And so that person has kind of given up before they've even started. They're not being creative. They don't know how to self-initiate or self-direct themselves into learning something new. But then we have our second person, and that person says, I don't know how AI can help me, but guess what? I'm going to see if AI can help me see how AI can help me. And here is the prompt that we have been teaching people for the last year and a half inside the AI Bootcamp and in our workshops. We typically do this with ChatGPT 4, but you could try this with any AI tool. You're going to go in and say, hey, ChatGPT, I have to do, and then this is where you insert your project or your task. What should I focus on, and what can you help me with? And you'll see it does a full breakdown for you of all the different things you should be doing as part of a project and what it can help you with. So let's look at this example. Hey, ChatGPT, I have to create a slide deck. I only have 60 minutes and I need to present it later today. What should I focus on and what can you help me with? And so you'll see over here, it's going to do a breakdown for you, but here's a bonus. You can actually upload in a draft of any existing slides you have, any notes or anything else it is that you have that you believe will help the tool help you create a much more concise, refined outcome in collaboratively working to get this slide deck done in the next 60 minutes so that you're confident and ready to present. The report then further shares that people who use this approach get these results. 93% of power users say AI helps them focus on the most important work. 92% of people say it makes their overwhelming workload much more manageable, which then frees their mental space to be more creative. And 91% of people say they feel more motivated and they enjoy their work more. Over here, it's not just creating our slides. We can actually even go into Copilot and we can actually even have it design the slides for us. So that's why people are reporting these kinds of results. But while these results are great, BYO AI puts your company data, student data, and much, much more at risk. Not only does it put your data at risk, you actually also have no idea what practices people are using. So it's great that this one group over here, the power users, are doing it well, but there's many others who might not be using it so well. So you can probably see there is now this ongoing theme that the more we refuse to lead the conversation about new ways of working and learning, the more we not only increase burnout and decrease productivity and creativity, but we're also putting our companies and our data at potential risk. So person one got stuck, gave up, didn't even start. No one's training them either. And so they are likely either annoyed, frustrated, skeptical, living with a bunch of assumptions that an AI is very likely going to replace this type of individual, because even though the knowledge is right there in front of them, they don't know how to act on that knowledge and self-direct and self-learn and self-initiate to be that irreplaceable person. Person two, though, is doing just fine, and they are now ready to move on to step three. So step three, person one, they're up to date with these existing and emerging trends. They understand how AI can be used and they're kind of experimenting. But number three, they know ideas aren't enough. They want to make impact. So in step three, they also know they don't have to create this impact and come up with this alone, because their power user is going to ask, how can AI help me do this? So for example, they could go back again into ChatGPT. And this time, this person's going to do a few things. They, number one, might just upload these 3 reports that I shared with you to save them time from reading them all themselves and say, hey, ChatGPT, based on these reports, what insights can I infer about how to approach the future of work in, and this is where you're going to put like your industry, your organization, whatever it is that you do. Or you might even just take the 3 images that I shared with you in this video and say, hey, ChatGPT, what insights do you have from this data over the past 3 years? And can you share 3 to 4 strategies for how I can be thinking about innovating and being creative in my work in this industry with AI? And this is really where your human advantage comes in. Sure, the reports are out there, the insights are out there, But ChatGPT doesn't know the ins and outs of your organization, your team, the nuances that you only observe in the day-to-day interactions, and only you know those because you work there. So the key here is really balancing the insights that we see from data and from research, but also alongside what you know about your organization, your team, and your culture. Now, once we have these insights, we're ready to actually take action here in step 3. And this one is really important because earlier when I shared that people always look to new technologies for ROI, research, evidence, is this technology even going to work? It's the wrong question to be asking. One of your responsibilities in step 3 is to help people ask a better question. And this is again where your human advantage is going to come into play. And again, this really isn't anything new. Again, this is going to take you all the way back to Albert Einstein. Einstein said, if I had an hour, I would spend 55 minutes on the problem and 5 minutes on the solution. And he's not the only one who says this. Don Norman shares this as well. He says a brilliant solution to the wrong problem is worse than no solution at all. So solve the right problem. And this is probably the biggest mistake that we see people make. They are spending so much time looking for ROI on a new technology or a new solution, or trying to take a solution and put it on top of an existing situation when they don't spend enough time asking, what is the problem we're actually trying to solve for? What are people struggling with? What do we wish our team had more time to do? And that's why we say cultures of innovation begin not with technology, but with a culture of empathy. So this person who's not going to be replaced by AI is the one who's going to ask, how might we take a problem like meetings that we're all struggling with, that's causing us frustration, and maybe use that time to be more productive by turning it into a workshop so that we're not overwhelmed by the inefficiencies, we're not getting burnt out, but we're also coming to the meeting feeling productive as if we did something because we did do something. So here's what they're going to do next. In step 4, they're going to create a small experiment so that people get a little glimpse and a little feel for what this means, and so that people get excited and curious inside the organization as well. Now, it's important to remember that when we redesign either how we're working or how we're learning, most people have a really hard time imagining what this is going to look like. And people are also going to be a little insecure. Is this going to work? What's going to happen if it doesn't? Like, people will always think about all the things that go wrong instead of the one thing that could go right. And this is why LinkedIn also share adaptability is the #1 skill to learn. But it's really hard to be adaptable if you don't have the right methods and mindsets. Now, Steve Bartlett, who hosts my favorite podcast, The Diary of a CEO, he says this amazing line: failure is feedback. Feedback is knowledge, and knowledge is power. But because most people are so scared to adapt and fail, they never get the feedback they need, and so they never get the knowledge they need to actually advance and move forward alongside technology. Not you though, because you are here in this video and you are now going to design a small experiment that helps people see the benefits of this new approach. And in this example, you're going to do this with Canva. So step 1, this person is going to prep the team. They're going to send an email to their manager proposing, hey, can I take the lead on designing our upcoming meeting, the agenda, the experience, and everything else that's included as part of it. They're going to lay out the goal, the plan, the outcome. They are initiating and taking responsibility. And of course, they're not doing this alone. They're doing this with the help of their AI tools. However, the AI tool can't do everything. Yes, it can help you draft the email to send, brainstorm the ideas for how you're going to organize this workshop experience, but that human connection, that has to happen face to face. In person, on a Zoom call, doesn't matter, but it should be you being the one building confidence in others, you being the one to persuade them to try this and to advocate for why this matters for your team or your organization. So let's say this person is a curriculum director in a school and they know that AI in education is just on everyone's mind. But the traditional meeting agenda might look something like this. People are coming in, exchanging formalities, all that awkward stuff, which is even more awkward on a Zoom call. Maybe we have like an introduction, some action items, maybe some presentations, and then the worst part of any meeting, the open discussion and questions where one person either dominates the conversation, people go down rabbit holes, and before you know it, time's up. Oh, gotta go to my next meeting. And guess what? I got nothing accomplished other than having to sit here for an hour and listen to all of this. Now, that's not to say that happens in every meeting, but it definitely happens in majority of meetings. So this person's going to say, scratch that. We're going to try something different. They're going to go inside of Canva and they're going to create a whiteboard for the meeting. These post-its on the whiteboard are going to do what we call make the conversation visible. They're going to create a space for all voices, but above all, they're also designing for ideas and thoughts and concerns to all be captured so they can be turned into actionable insights so that we can actually design what's next. We call this visual collaboration, and again, it is nothing new. What's really interesting is I actually did this at Apple while I was there during the pandemic, because Apple is a company that did everything face-to-face. We did nothing online, but we had a really important briefing coming up, which is typically where people used to come, executive teams and leaders used to come to Apple Park, and you would come there for 2 days and we would do all these workshops and everything with you. And it was honestly one of the most important aspects of our business and what we used to do in our roles. And when the pandemic happened, obviously we couldn't do that anymore. But instead of just saying like, oh no, I guess we can't do it anymore, we introduced an entire way of hosting what was called a virtual briefing. And you can create an email. One of the things I did was create this little booklet. I had a little video that went alongside this so that my manager could share it with their manager and anybody else that needed to know. And we gave examples of how this works, little experiments that we had tried to kind of build evidence for this. And Tim Cook actually shared it during one of our big town hall meetings. So these are all things I'm sharing with you that I've actually tried, actually practiced, that have actually worked. But one of the things I want to also show you is what different AI tools can do. So one of my favorite AI tools for search is Perplexity. And as I was going through this, I became curious all of a sudden, when did visual collaboration actually come about? Because I wanted to say it in this video. And I started typing it into ChatGPT, but we know ChatGPT is not the best for search. So I went over to Perplexity and I was in Perplexity, and then I was able to ask, when was visual collaboration first introduced? And you can see not only do the results tell me that it's been around for a really long time, but I can also see the citations. I can ask follow-up questions because now I'm curious even like, what are the key milestones? And so this is what it means to self-initiate and self-learn, and also the different things you'll learn as you engage in these different experiments. But anyways, for now, back to our meeting agenda. Now again, post-its, nothing new, but this person is taking evidence-based practices and applying now new technologies to get even better outcomes than we would have before. One of the challenges they know we have with post-its is it takes a long time to take all those ideas, categorize them, sort through them, identify different themes while also moving us to the next step. And remember, we only have 60 minutes. So using Canva, because they've done this digitally, they're actually able to use the sort tool that uses AI to sort all of these post-its for us. And as soon as all the ideas are in, within seconds, the themes are ready for people to discuss so that we can move forward on choosing one, making a decision, and actually implementing it into practice. So here's what this person is going to do next. They are going to pull up their AI tool. In this case, I'm going to use ChatGPT Teams so that all of my data is protected. And now they are going to apply my Spark prompting framework to quickly turn these ideas into impact and actionable strategies so that we can get moving forward on making a decision about what we want to do next to try this. So here's the prompt they might use. We're in a leadership team meeting right now. We're discussing the rising impact of AI in education, and a primary concern that's emerging is around the issue of cheating, particularly essay writing. Despite the potential of AI to enhance our education outcomes, our educators are really struggling to ensure that students engage authentically with their assignments. We are trying to redesign our 10th grade English curriculum, not just to address the cheating concern, but also to really think about how to better prepare our students with critical thinking, creative problem-solving skills. Our goal is to make learning more engaging and aligned with the skills we know our students need for the future. We want to be able to develop a learning model where students can showcase their understanding through projects that reflect real-world application and creativity. Our teachers love Canva, and so how could we use that to foster a visual and collaborative approach to learning? Please provide 3 to 4 innovative ideas on how we can integrate Canva into our 10th grade English curriculum to help our students create more engaging and authentic essay projects that encourage individual expression and collaboration. Now, together as a group, they're going to discuss the different ideas, those 4 that it's shared, and choose one. Now, if you don't want the discussion to get off task, you can easily just have people use another strategy that we call note and vote. And this is where people on the whiteboard silently vote on the ideas that they want to move forward. You pick the majority vote, and that's it. You just make the decision and move forward. Now, it's also important to remember within ChatGPT's responses, you don't just have to pick one. You can totally mix and match. But now let's just say they've decided on their idea, and now we need a plan for execution. So at this point, let's say we're about 30 minutes into our meeting, we are going to go back to Canva, and we're going to take a screenshot of our planning table. We're going to go back into ChatGPT, and here's what the person is going to do for the team. They're going to say, these are the ideas we've decided on. You just enter the numbers or give context and reasoning for why. It's also really important, I think, in the follow-up prompt to set parameters. What's the time frame? What's the group we're designing for? When is this going to happen? And here's the magic. They're going to upload a photo of the empty action plan template in Canva and ask ChatGPT to create and fill in the blanks. And now again, it's back to you and the team to edit this timeline, to refine this timeline. Do you agree? Do you need more time for something? Is there a piece missing? Did you get a new idea that you want to add in? But there we go. This is what it looks like when people say, AI won't replace you, but a person using AI will. In my next video, I'm going to share what leaders need to do to help create cultures where people feel confident and empowered to do this kind of work and bring forward these kinds of ideas. Because guess what? The Microsoft report also tells us, while 61% of leaders say they don't even want to hire people without AI skills, the people, the very valuable people inside their organization who have these skills are maybe too afraid to even say anything. Over 50% of people say, if I tell everyone I'm using AI, especially if it's an important project, then my manager is just going to think that they can replace me. And so the great AI talent you're looking for, the innovation you're looking for, might not come from people outside because your organization doesn't have that reputation for not having that culture of innovation, that culture of trust, that culture of safety. And the report also shares that this all really comes down to human connection, leaders really reassuring people and building the culture and for new ideas and for new innovations. And so in my next video, I'm so excited to be joined by Connor Grennan. He's the head of generative AI at NYU Stern, and Opus Clips to share how leaders can create cultures of innovation that begin with empathy by really leveraging communication strategies. For more skills and strategies just like the one you saw in today's video, I invite you to join my online course, the AI Bootcamp. Inside the AI Bootcamp, I teach you the methods and mindsets just like the one you saw today in this video to help you be irreplaceable in a world with AI.